And here we are, same shirt, different day, because I had so many folks over yesterday with Sean and Jeff and Caper that I couldn't film as much because I was busy trying to keep everyone on task and get the next thing ready for them and help everyone out, that I just didn't have time to pick up the camera. But I did want to go over a few details that we ran into that I hadn't had a chance to mention yet. First off, here with the AC unit, it's pretty straightforward when it goes in. I'll try to put an image in the video, but this tray that the HVAC unit sits on, the factory only includes a handful of rivets. I think it's like 7 or 9 or something like that. It's pretty easy to locate. There's this, if I move the wiring harness, there's this forward tray that the footwell ducts connect to right on the front here. And I centered it, although I've seen other builds where it's off-center. It does make getting these tubes on a little tricky, but I centered this tray, and let's see if I can get the camera under here to show it. There are some nutserts, which you can see there, and bolts here and here. There's 3 of them, and those locate the front of the tray. Once you have this front tray located on this dash bar, there are, you can kind of see it there, there's that gold nutsert. I had to supply that, and that attaches this tray to the tray that the actual HVAC unit sits on, and it only goes in, I mean, a little bit on that lip. It's not, there we go, if we can focus on the right thing. So I mean, the tray doesn't stick out very much, and it only sets back on this lip a little bit. I would say maybe a ½ inch, and that locates this tray in terms of depth from dash to the forward bulkhead unit. And then once this tray is located, you have to be really careful when you attach this to again this forward footwell kind of space frame, because here at the wings on this side and then on the other side, it will flex up and down, and so what you have to do is you have to rivet it to these bars and to this bar and to this bar, but you have to do so out at the extremity, so like out here, but you know, underneath and straight down. And then likewise for this bar here, you have to go way out to the corner and anchor it, and then here in the middle. And that does a really good job of preventing this whole assembly from rattling. I mean, this is pretty solid. It's not going to move, but because of the location of this HVAC unit, and I'll show you on the body here. On the body, it sits right here under the nose and under the dash, and there's like, once that center tub goes on, like right here, there's no way to get to that HVAC unit. Some guys will cut access holes here on the nose and on that side too, and I may do that as well, but there's no, the dash here under the glass, that is all part of this center section, and it helps stiffen the center section. So you really don't want this thing rattling at all. So from the picture, you saw that I added a little bit of the second skin. It's over there, sound deadening material, some of this stuff. I just put a couple stripes down, and then I put a little patch here on the corners on either side, and that was mainly to offer just something for the HVAC unit to sit on, so that it itself wouldn't rattle against metal or anything like that, and to deaden the panels a little bit. And then the last step we did is, I don't know if I can see it here, I drilled a hole down here in the panel as well. Oh, we also took a little sound deadening and folded it over this lip so it didn't cut into the plastic fan housings or rattle against them. But I drilled a hole on right here where my finger is. It's difficult to see. But then we put a zip tie around it to secure the back of the HVAC unit to hold it down, to keep it from rattling. And so now in operation, going over bumps or just any kind of expansion gaps, reversal, just anything on the road, that should not rattle now. And you know, we were tapping on it and tapping on the bars, and I mean, it's pretty solid. So I'm really happy with the way that that turned out, and I can't recommend all these steps enough for future builders. Another thing we had done is here, wherever the bars ran underneath this tray, I also hit it with the sealant, and I'm kind of running low on the sealant. But again, any additional step to secure this panel and keep it from rattling, it's not lost. You really want to make sure that that stays solid. Let's see, what else we have here. The wiring is, the wiring is draped on the chassis. It's not in its final location. I'm still kind of figuring things out. I mean, as you can see, this whole mess of wires here, none of it's labeled. I mean, it's colored and striped, but that's it. And so that's going to be a small nightmare for some, but the secret to wiring is you deal with one circuit at a time. There's a fixed number of circuits. Eventually, you'll have it wired. So that's just how I'm going to have to do it. But like these guys over here, it's really my the next step I need to do is figure out how to route everything and to make sure that I route the correct circuits to the correct locations. Like I know that the fuse box sits here in the side pod, which is well, you can't really see it, but it's this kind of window here will end up in this area, and then these stick through it. They mount on a panel that's here in the box. So speaking of side pods, this one is like all the holes are drilled, everything's ready to go. But what we found was when we tried to put it in place, oh, there we go. This radiator pipe is installed, but the other side is not. They have these P-clips, and it's not fastened into place yet. There we go. It's not fastened into place yet because what we found is the location of this pipe is very tight with this cutout in the side pod, and I didn't have enough clearance for these tabs that we'd cut to clear the pipes up in here. So you could almost rock this into place, and there just wasn't enough room. Let's bring this up here into some better light. Speaking of these side pods, the factory has changed their manufacturing process for these from the builds that I've seen online, and they come kind of pre-cut a little bit. However, these cuts were not in the right locations. It was close, but you still need to do some trimming and fitting. So like, you know, this area was cut over, you know, kind of here. This one was a little bit longer out to here, and then likewise this side was a little bit longer out to here. And so we trimmed all that, got it put in, and without the radiator pipe, it fits. But as soon as you put the radiator pipe in, it just doesn't clear this step because you can't rotate the whole thing up because this corner interferes up here with as well. So what I need to do is I'm just going to trim that piece up and that piece up. And then we'll be able to slide this into place, then we can get the radiator pipe. So I haven't said much about this yet. It's kind of unintended drama for a build, but What happened was I got the entire kit on the 27th of July. Well, I thought it was the entire kit. When I went through and did the inventory, I found that there was a number of parts missing, like the complete oil system, the shift cables were missing, the uprights, the front uprights, and or spindles, and the steering kit. All that was missing, and a few other things that are kind of important to run. So. And the transmission mount was another part, but I didn't care so much. I don't know if this is kind of standard operating procedure, but because I didn't need those for the part of the build that I was doing first, I was okay with not having them. But just a fair warning that if you order the whole kit at once, that to definitely go through, and day one that you have the kit, go through and do your inventory and make sure that you have everything that you should have. I'm still finding stuff, and I thought I'd gone through fairly methodically and done my inventory, but what I found was even yesterday when I thought I had the shift cables, I don't. So I'm hoping they're going to arrive tomorrow with the rest of the shipment, so I guess we'll find out. The other thing we're waiting on is the fuel tanks and a new radiator. So, speaking of, that is another thing for new builders. I had found online all the builds that I'd seen had an aluminum radiator. Well, turns out that is an option. The standard radiator, which I have here, is this black monstrosity. I can't really pick it up with one hand. It weighs about 20 pounds, and it is like brass and copper. It's just a pig-heavy thing. I was expecting an aluminum radiator with the kit because that's everything I had seen. So, if you order your kit, make sure you ask for an aluminum radiator as an option. When they send you the build sheet or the spec sheet with everything, I don't know if it's on there, or it wasn't on the one that I received, which is why I assumed I was going to get an aluminum radiator. So when you contact the factory and you talk to Ted or Richard or any of the sales folk over there, make sure you ask them about the aluminum radiator upgrade, because that's definitely a must-have, especially if you're in the States. Rest of the world, cooler climates, maybe not as big a deal. But, I intend to take this car out and race it. And, we hit racetracks out here where it's 115 degrees, which is, I think that's going to be like 45 or 47 degrees Celsius. I mean, it's hot. And you need all the help you can get out of a really good radiator. So I can't recommend getting the aluminum radiator highly enough. So I think that'll do it for this update. I'm going to work on those side pods, and I'll show you my progress once I get it in place. So today it's just me here, and I'll try to set the camera up and capture some of the fitting and wiggling around that goes into getting this side pod on the car, so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about.